And we're back. 1981.
1981, the new year.
New year. Reagan in 20 days will be president. Maybe when this came out, I'm not really sure. I think it was like maybe the end of January, so maybe Reagan was already president. So this is the last of the Carter movies.
Yeah, to the Reagan era.
To the Reagan era, which will be right after this, but still not really the influence, but it'll hit. So our movie is Underground Aces.
Yeah, that's what it's called, Underground Aces, about parking attendants, right?
About parking attendants. They will park your car where the sun doesn't shine.
And it's like, I read the log line. It's like, well, I don't want. That's not what I want.
I think this is just like a, which we'll probably figure out once we watch it, is it's car wash. You know, it's like, oh, it's zany people at a job location. It's meatballs. You know, it's that
80s.
Which, yeah, so I feel like this will be what we're to expect in 80s movies, 80s comedies.
Yes, exactly.
You know,
I mean, you read it and you got 80s.
And I'm guessing,
even if I didn't know the decade.
So are we going to guess, like, we'll see some sort of full frontal nudity within the first 10 minutes or about 30 minutes in?
Yeah, probably. I don't know. That's a good...
We'll put a timer up. When it comes up, we'll know. But
yeah.
All right. Underground Aces, 1981, January 1981.
Starting it off.
And we're going to go park some cars.
Absolutely.
We did it January 1981.
January 1981.
But of course, the campfire.
The campfire, right?
Oh. Yeah. Haven't had this in quite some time.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, 1981. I haven't had any since our last one. That's really good. So, Underground Aces, Robert Butler.
Yeah, Robert Butler, the go-to director.
Gunsmoke, Batman, the TV series, Star Trek, the original series. I think there was a Walton. So this guy is a TV guy.
Had not much to do with this this movie, but very accomplished. This was like a lot of stuff. This is like a stew of just things, stuff, actors doing stuff, and it was like, let's throw all these gags and all these things and just throw it at the wall and just see what sticks. I'm sure, I don't know, it felt like they probably shot, if you can believe it, more.
Yeah. I mean, it's a tight, well, not tight in a good sense. Right. It is 90 minutes, I think, to the frame. Like, it's like we're making a 90-minute movie no matter what. And I'm not saying that an hour 45 would have made this movie any better, but it's a 90-minute romp.
Yeah, it is a 90-minute romp. It was trying to be a lot of things.
Yeah.
And I think we were talking, like, if we just focused on a story, one sort of solid story, one sort of simple story, and I don't think that any of these weren't necessarily simple stories. They were, but it's just, with so many characters, it's hard to like focus us in on characters. And so I mean, it's the job of the directors, the job of the writers, and it has been done very well in the 80s.
Yes.
So like, I feel like this is a stop on the road to films like this, where that does happen, where you get a story, where you fall in love with the characters, the music is right, and sort of directed in a way that we can just follow a story. This one is just like, you have TK Carter and Michael Winslow, who, does he ever talk? I don't know.
He didn't have one word. He just did his Michael Winslow voices.
Yeah.
And then that was it.
It's like, do I know what he sounds like as a human? It's like that, and then they fall out.
Yeah.
And then they come back and we go, oh, as an example, oh right, they're in there. So it's just like, it bounces from story to story.
Right.
It starts out very aggressively with the parking sort of fiasco at this upscale Beverly Hills
Plaza, as they called it.
Plaza Hotel.
The busiest hotel. Oh, I guess the premise of the movie is it's about a ragtag group of parking attendants at a upscale. Yes. I'm also overselling that.
That's what it's supposed to be.
It's about a ragtag group of misfits as parking attendants at a high-end hotel, and apparently this hotel gets 7,000 guests in a day, because that first 10 minutes there was 1,000 cars that went through.
I don't even know if they have enough employees to park the cars that came through with all the different types of conventions and people. I mean, that big prostitute corps. Yeah, sort of comes through.
Then there was the American Legion and the pro bowlers, and then
it was Weight Watchers, and it's just like, what is going on? Yeah, and it was just hijinks after hijinks, and it was like, I would never recommend going to this hotel if I were there.
Like, everyone, it's like you always buy into that, like, suspension of disbelief when you watch these things. Yeah. It's like, all right, I get that they're having a wacky good time, but it's like, people are either going to get injured or been fired after one day. Right. Big cast with Dirk Benedict, Melanie Griffith, T.K. Carter, Michael Winslow, Jerry Orbach, Frank Gorshin, a brief appearance, as John pointed out, of Ernie Hudson.
Audrey Landers.
Was it Mimi Maynard or something from Three's a Crowd? Like, it was just Horshack, who was actually kind of the lead, I would say.
I was like, that's because it was like, that's Horshack. Yeah. He's in it, but then he's like the lead.
Yeah, and so it's like, I don't know who the lead is. Who's the main person? Oh yeah, and then the Sheik guy. I mean, he wasn't.
I think that they tried to make it so that it was Dirk. He gets top billing, and it was kind of him until forgive me, but Horshack came in.
It's gonna be Horshack, right? It's just what it is.
He's gonna be Horshack for life. He came in, and then he sort of took over, and it was like his story was, I guess, more interesting, because what was Dirk Benedict?
Dirk Benedict had just left college at 32. Yeah. He's going to get a job at the parking attendant place because his friend works there, Ollie. But once again, I remember people's names. I shouldn't in this film.
How do you remember?
And Lucy, Melanie. She had Lucy written on him. It's going to be about him. Yeah. But then, like, after 10 minutes of him getting a job, they're all like just best friends. So, and you're not really then following Dirk Benedict anywhere. It's not his journey. It's no one's journey. It feels like it's the Sheik's journey.
And that was a big story. I mean, before we even are introduced to him, it was more about the parking attendants, how they take your car, or get you prostitutes, or get you flowers, or like whatever you want.
Any of the parking attendants.
Nothing. It's just like, I want this done, so parking attendant, you do it. And they are able to do whatever. Yeah. They're working on cars, in this garage for some reason.
Hey, I'm staying at a hotel. Can you fix my car as well?
Yeah, so they have mechanics in there. A couple guys are working, rebuilding a vintage car
that they were going to resell, because remember, that was a story point before the bowling ball. I mean, we're not even going to probably talk about the bowling ball thing. So they're going to rebuild it and go, well, restored, we could get $7,000 for it. Later on, after the car explodes because of the bowling ball, then they have to put it together in 10 minutes. This movie's nuts. Because that person came to pick up their car, it seemed like that person was picking up the car, not buying the car. So it's like, were they just going to sell it and just say his car disappeared?
Probably.
It feels like what they did was like, they watched all the movies that they wanted to make. Yeah. It's like, we're going to...
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly
There's Meatballs, there's Cannonball Run. I think Cannonball Run was 1980. I'm not 100% sure.
I think so. And this had some, like when we go in the hotel, it had some Cannonball-esque... when I say some, I mean like maybe a 5 seconds. Yeah. But something where it was like, okay, this is trying to be something where a piece of the movie that, say what you want to about Cannonball Run, It's
they tell you what the movie is. You can follow, like you said, like it can be done. Cannonball Run has a cast of nothing but stars, but I know exactly what everyone is doing. I know who the lead of that movie is. I know everything about that movie.
Yeah. I mean, like it can be done. It's just
it can be done, kids.
this was just, maybe. Do you think it's going away from sort of synopsis? Do you think it's sort of like, let's jump on? Was there a bandwagon at this point, or
no? See, like
too early?
If this was 83 or 84, if this was 83, I think they're definitely jumping on some sort of teen, because I feel like they were trying to make this like a teen comedy, but everyone was 30. I mean, although Melly Griffith was probably 25 or something.
Yeah.
And Horshack was maybe 25. It was like they wanted to make a comedy. And they just probably went, this is what we want from all these. And that's all they did. And it's like, but we can only shoot in one location.
Yeah, and it was like, in the beginning, sort of the first 20 minutes, I was like, oh, wow. I mean, it's as advertised. We're out and with these parking guys. And I'm like, is the whole movie going to be outside? I mean, it would make sense. Yeah. They're staying true, either outside the hotel or in the garage, which is like, okay, not the best locations, but okay. And I'm like, but we are at a hotel. Like, do they go inside? And they finally do. And once we go inside, that's when the turn of the love story, which is like, all right. My mind was like, okay, how's he gonna handle this? Like, where are we going from here? And it was the awkward looks from the Sheik and the Audrey Landers and Horshack and the Sheik and then Audrey, and I'm like, I don't know what is happening here, because like real time the Sheik is just looking or staring for like 20 minutes, maybe at her, maybe at someone. I was like, I don't really know what's happening or what moment is here. The music informs us this, okay, here's like a love struck moment, but I didn't know what to make of it, and then we do have a story with the Sheik. Yeah, and I have no idea.
Nothing like getting introduced to, I guess, the main character 30 minutes into.
I know.
The way that whole thing was played out, the triangle per se of the Sheik looking at Landers and then Tico or Chico. I feel like they use both names, staring at her. At first, it made it seem like they were both in love with her, but we already saw that Chico liked the other girl. Because they were like, the way they were playing it off, it was like, but I thought he liked the other girl. Then all of a sudden, he felt like he needed to help the Sheik fall in love with the blonde. Like, it was the thinnest of like an idea in this story.
Right, because in that scene, what I'm saying is that awkward bounce... bouncing, swinging, singing, or whatever. It was. I felt like, oh, well, he's in love with her too, but literally 15 seconds ago, he was hitting on the other girl. Yeah. So
it's like,
how would he have a moment with her?
Yeah, because she had like her quickest thing was like, you have to tell everyone. Like, she was mad she was getting married, which then I don't know that.
Yeah, and then she went off, and then I have no idea what. And then he needs to tell a Sheik how to. Yeah. Because I guess being a Sheik is not.
That was the weirdest. I think that was the weirdest aspect. One of the weirdest aspects of this film was that, so the Sheik and his bodyguards or whatever, like, couldn't just go up to this girl. Like, he had to then trade places with a parking attendant who looked nothing like him. Right. Which they luckily enough made a joke about. Yeah. Twice, because they joked about it, and then Jerry Orbach made a joke. Poor Jerry Orbach. Jerry Orbach. He then had to, but she didn't know. I think that's what was so weird. It wasn't like she knew he was the Sheik, but she was looking at the Sheik, but then looked at the parking attendant going, oh, I love him. It's like, did she, it was confusing. Like, she kind of had to gaze at both of them, and it wasn't like, oh, I really like this guy, or whatever. It was confusing. Yeah. For the thinnest of the genericest storylines. Like, this was the most generic type of movie like this, and like they still couldn't really get over the finish line.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like there's a movie just of the Sheik trading places, which you could set it up a lot better than this, but trading places with, you know, a quote unquote commoner, Argentine or whatever, and trying to fall in love with. I mean, this has happened before, but
yeah, you've seen it. It's like, I want to fall in love with it's Coming to America.
Yeah,
you know, that's you know, that's what the first one,
the second one. First, I haven't even seen all the second, but the first one, for sure.
If you did it where like Dirk Benedict hires that date, and then maybe the prince looks sort of like Dirk Benedict, the prince likes Melanie Griffith, and Dirk Benedict, the parking attendant, likes the higher end girl. You swap places, wackiness ensues. It was like I think that's what it was. This movie was 5 movies that they tried to do. It's like, what if it's a Trading Places movie? You know, what if it's a love movie? Oh, what if it's about wacky people? What if it's about cars? I feel like the studio was like, what about this?
Yeah.
The director's like, what do you want me to do?
Because I know in screenwriting class,
school time.
We're gonna have school hour.
School hour. Listen.
No, it was just like we had a professor who was just grizzled old guy, right? Mm. And so he came in through the old school, so it was like, I don't care what script you brought in, and no one was bringing in anything conventional.
Yeah.
It was always like, he would always say, well, everybody brings in this independent, my mother died and they killed my father and this and that. It's like, why can't it be? And we're just like, Eddie, come on, it's this
everyone's trying to stand out.
Yeah. You know? And but every time, like, you tell, like, you pitch a script, and his first question was like, where's your love story? You know? And I'm like, okay, I guess I gotta have a love story.
Yeah.
And you have a story about like a boy and his dog. Mm. You know, it's a story. It's a love story between a boy and a dog, and it's like, it doesn't have to be the love story. But he's like, "Where's your love story?" And I think he's coming from probably him pitching scripts back in the day to the studio, and them asking that question.
Yeah,
where's your love story?
Because that's what mainly the movies were. It was always about that.
Yeah, so it's like, I can see you coming in with a script. This has nothing to do with what we just watched. This is me just... But I can see them coming in with a script with a bunch of zany hijinks at a parking...
Yeah.
Which, you know, if you're paying your $1.25 to go see this movie, that's all you're really paying to see. Yeah. In the studio going, where's the love story? You know, that was a big thing. It's like, where's the love story?
Yeah.
And it's like, well, there's no love story. I mean, it's about
zany parking attendants.
Yeah, it's about these guys goofing off and, you know, at a parking structure, a parking stand or whatever. And so they said, well, we got to have a love story, you know, to bring other audiences in. And so that's what the Sheik and the whole thing with the wedding, which I still don't get. I think that for me, it was like, okay, they're shoving like a love story in because it's like, that was the note. Like, we got to have a love story in here. And I guess, you know, the Dirk, Benedict, Melanie Griffith sort of
wasn't enough.
Yeah. You have to have something, you know, that engages someone staying at the hotel and sort of engage the parking attendants with the people staying there, the guests.
Yeah.
And so you have this whole Chic thing, which, you know, it's like, oh, it's Beverly Hills, so I can see, you know, exactly said Beverly Hills, so a lot of people come through Beverly Hills. Yeah. How about a foreign dignitary? How about a Sheik?
For no reason other than, I guess, because they got a couple gas price jokes in there.
Yeah.
There was about the oil, and I'm guessing that's coming off of Carter and the gas prices.
Yeah.
So maybe that was the reason why. It's like, it'll be topical in 81.
Right. I mean, it just was like, because you got the music, and then the confusing thing about, well, I thought Horshack liked the other girl, so why does he seem like he's in love with this girl? And then, why is he taking it upon himself to help the sheik?
Yeah.
And then, but she would be, I guess, he'd be more palatable to him, or he would be more palatable to her in plain clothes or as a parking attendant. I mean, I don't remember 81.
Yeah.
But I'm sure parking attendants weren't like, the desirable.
Yeah.
Why couldn't he just be a guy in a suit?
Yeah, I mean, it would have been better if it was more of an us and them. It's like, you don't talk to the hotel guests.
Yeah.
And we never go into the hotel. So then it was like this, like, there's a guy that's a guest, and, he's flirting, or she's flirting with the, parking attendants, like, okay, there's the riff or something, but they had no reason why. It wasn't like she only liked him because he was the sheik, and that was the initial meeting. It's like, but I need to know if she really loves me. I'm going to go undercover. Right. It was just sort of like, why? And why are you there?
Yeah, I don't know.
And then there was also like 3 love story. I mean, there was the breakup with Melanie Griffith and the guy from, well, it wasn't actually the guy from Starsky and Hutch, but the guy that looks like from Starsky and Hutch. Then her romance sort of with Dirk Benedict. Then you had Horshack and, Three's a Crowd. Then the Sheik. So it was like, oh, you want a love story? We're going to give you 5.
Yeah. So there was a lot of stuff going on. And, there can be a lot of different things sort of going on at the same time. Just sort of like noises off the wrong play, wrong show. It's like this sort of choreographed orchestration of different things going on at the same time, and all these different relationships going on. Through different people at the same time, which is hard to do. But in this one, but can be done. In this one, it's just like they just throw everything, and I'm like, what? Who is this? Like, why is this person here? Or what is she? Did they get married? Like, what happened? Why is he on a horse? So it's just this.
It's like, when does this take place? Because in theory, we calculated it's 3 days. Because he never got his first check.
Yeah.
So it's his first day. Then there's the scene where it's the next morning. Then it's the morning after the wedding. So it's 3 days when he all of a sudden gets accepted to college and takes Melanie Griffith at the end. So it's like, this has been the weirdest 3 days. When did you hear that? Do you have a place to live? What?
I know. It's like, what? So they work at a parking stand or work in the parking, but then they live there too because
they were staying in that hotel room.
They were staying in a hotel room. It's like, is that? Look, we're asking way too many questions, but
way too many questions.
I shouldn't say this, but like in a real parking, like, do people live at the hotel? Do I have to live at the hotel to work for a minimum wage parking job?
And I think it would have just been easier. Maybe it's in draft 1. Dirk could have just been working there all summer. Like, he could have
no
just been.
Reason why he couldn't. Yeah.
Him being the outsider, he's never like, what's going on? He's never like wide-eyed. He feels like he's part of the crew 10 minutes after he's in this movie. So he's never like, what are you guys doing?
I kept forgetting. I was like, because he seemed like he was like they had to run to the hotel. He's in the hot tub. I mean, he's just like, this
like
is
he feels like he's been there the whole time, and there's never like, hey, new guy.
None of that.
It feels like, why did he have to be? And it couldn't have been like, it would have just made more sense. It's like, I got accepted, I can go back to college. Come with me. Because there's no... Because then you could have just assumed in your head that they've been friends all summer. If it is summer. I don't even know if it's summer. He just said he was going in the fall, so...
That's true. Yeah, he did.
Yeah, we never know when the start of the movie is. I mean, it feels like it's a summer job.
Right.
Yeah,
it's of course, parking attendants happen. Parking happens at hotels year round.
Yeah.
I think initially, probably in the inception of the story, it's like, hey, guy gets a job. And it goes through these drafts, and it goes through, say having Dirk Benedict there, to see how absolutely comfortable he is on screen and with these people, and he's charismatic, so we can follow him, and it's to the point where it's like I'm not going to buy Dirk Benedict as the guy who's just looking for a job and first day and stuff like that. Not acting the way he is.
No, he's way too confident. He's already at a level beyond everyone else, just like with his charm and character. Like it's hard to like be the new guy.
Yeah, he's just not like, that's not who you pick. If you want the new guy, like immediately he looks like he's been there for a while. He's got the run of the place. The way he moves in and out of the, it's just he moves in it like he would in I don't say the 18, but it's just like he's just, he feels like he's at home there, and so it's every time you say, oh, he's looking for a job, I'm like, right, he's looking for
the first couple minutes of the movie,
right? Because I'm like, I don't feel that, and it's not even necessary to feel that, really.
Yeah, you either have to have him be an employee there, or you have to do a scene where TK Carter shows him the ropes.
Yeah. Like he has to not know everything like he does now.
Well, you're right, though. Like, he already knows where to park cars, and I mean, they don't really get, obviously, into the weeds of the job at all.
Yeah.
But it's like, I mean, you could have, then that would have been the good explanation of everything. It's like, okay, these cars go here. If you're trying to, do something, they go here. The party floor is on level D, as they kept alluding to, but there was only the one sort of party at one point. But which then it seemed like everyone had been there all summer, and it's like, it's day 3.
Sort of the scene where Louis Anderson shows Hakeem where to make the fries in the break. Yeah, exactly.
From the first one.
Yeah, from the first second. I don't even know is there a second one?
There shouldn't.
It's like the one that matters.
The one that mattered.
Yeah, it's like that. If we had that one scene, that would have helped.
Yeah.
But he's, racing people. He's in it. Yeah. Like, he's in the world. So if it were a situation where, like, he had been there, he had worked there for a while, knows everybody, but he wants to get out.
Yeah.
But he wants to do something else. It could be about that. It could be about the new guy, but I don't know if that's really interesting.
But the new guy has to be he has to be the kid from Meatballs. Like, he's sort of the main character, but he's the kid being shown around everything.
Yeah.
Bill Murray's the star, but like this, you're seeing it through this kid's eyes. Like, it's TK Carter's like the lead.
Yeah.
And he's showing Dirk Benedict, everything. But I think that's the problem, is that I feel like they just wanted to do stuff. It's like in their head they had all these great sight gags that some worked, some didn't, but then they didn't worry about the narrative story, because there isn't really one.
No.
People are paying $1.25. They're coming. Look, we just come off the bag, gas crisis. People just want to have a good time.
Right. Yeah, no, I know. And it's, like you said, it's a 90-minute romp, and it has all those things in there, a little much. I mean, like, if anyone walks anywhere, they have to fall over someone else or crash into something, or, and it's
a cake in the face for no, like, they stuck that in. That was like a scene later, and it was a cake that didn't match the cake in the previous scene, and it was like, so you just wanted someone to go into a cake.
Yeah. And so it's like all those like gags of step on his foot and do this and do that, and it's like, sure. However, like, I think about you and me, like, watching this movie now, but like watching this movie on, say, the movie channel at like 10, watches at 10 or whatever, however old you are, it's like I would be a lot more forgiving than I am right now.
Oh, of course, 100%.
But it's just like, I'm like, how would I see this movie? I'm sort of afraid to go back to other movies that I saw like 50,000 times on the movie channel that were screwball comedies that I'd go, well, and
it's probably exactly just like this one. You're like, I thought it was a story.
Exactly. And I'm like, I probably would have responded to a lot of the sight gags
Yeah.
and stuff like that. And, I mean, I'm sure not just a 10-year-old kid would, but, adults and everything back then. I mean, because movies were different. But now, it's, sort of looking at this, I think we can appreciate this movie in the time period for what it is. But at the same time, it's like, I don't care if it's like when, narrative was conceived or up till now, like it still remains, and in the future it's going to remain like, well, is there a story?
Yeah.
And we don't need anything complicated and anything like this, but something simple. And none of these were like complicated stories, but it was like, I think if you just change this, do this, do this, do this, we could have like just a simple story,
Yeah.
I mean, the log line or the synopsis that you on the document that you had was like, this is the something like the zany goings on at a parking parking attendant stand at a hotel.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
And for me, it's like, well, why do we need to know more? But really, if you walked into the studio in 1980 and said, hey, zany mishaps at a parking stand for 3 days.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
It's Meatball meets this, meets it.
Yeah.
Great.
Right,
And we can do it for $3 million. Although that couldn't find the budget on this one, but $3 million.
Couldn't have been more than that. But
and they're like, great, we'll make 8. That was probably like the goal.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll make 6.
Yeah, lots of characters, lots of people who are really talented, but they were sort of in something where it's like, all right, I'm doing the best. Like you said, Jerry just doing the best he could with what he had.
Yeah, Jerry Orbach was actually not the best person in the movie, but I think he knew what the movie was, even though he wasn't the biggest star at that point. Like, but he was like, I'm going to give you what Jerry Orbach. Somehow they give him talking in the third person. And that's the thing, I mean, that's another thing we could talk about, is that none of the acting was bad.
No.
There were people, like I think Michael Winslow got the short end of the stick because it was just all his noises, and that's kind of what he was...
Yeah.
I don't know if that's what he was known for in 81 as much as that's what they played on.
Yeah.
And like for the people that would float in and out, like Horseshack was really good.
Mm-hmm.
Dirk Benedict is as good as Dirk Benedict. Melanie Griffith was great. I mean, like everyone in it, that's not even the issue with this movie. It has nothing to do with even the acting or even the performances.
No, not at all.
And like you said, if this had some sort of thinner or like a little thicker story, and we were watching it on the movie channel in 83 as kids, it'd probably stick with me more. Like this was just like, they had all the bits that all these movies had. If they just even the smallest point of like who I knew the lead was, who can I be behind? Who do I want to idolize?
Absolutely, and I think this could be pared down to I won't say a simpler narrative because it's simple, but like a less convoluted one.
Yeah.
It's like, I didn't see all of it, but that movie, Coming to America too, it's like you have so many characters. You have so many people that you want to get into the movie.
Yeah.
And to me, it seems to be more about that than actually crafting like a story.
Right.
And, that whole thing, the story is king.
Mm-hmm.
It has to be. It has to be to the point of, hey, this is the story, and we'll have the people in it that serve the story. If you don't serve the story, I'm sorry. We'd love to have everyone in it, but we can't. We have to serve the story above all else. So, when it's just like, just throw a bunch of zany stuff in here. Hey, what about T.K. Carter? What about Melanie Griffith? What about Jerry Orbach? What about Dirk? Just throw them all in here. When you do that, it's like you're just finding stuff for Winslow to do. You're finding stuff for all these people to do, and it's just like, okay,
Yeah.
You know, well, what if they work in cars? What if Winslow also works on cars?
At the parking garage.
At the parking garage, and he suddenly works on a car that I don't know if it needed to be worked on.
Yeah.
But
yeah, like he's working on a car, and then it's like, hey, this guest is here, and they need their car, and then it's like, but why is he working on the car? I think that was it. It's like little explanations, even if they were bullshit. It's like, oh no, we offer tune-ups at this hotel. Okay. That they were in the middle of a tune-up and they needed their car, but like, I think that was it. It was like, and things were just too, like, they're crashing cars, they're doing stuff, and then there were 400 employees. Then there were the core employees. Like, it just had to be like, you had to pick, even if you kept the whole cast, like, it has to just focus on them.
Right.
You know, and then you can't have the thumb or whatever, Starsky or Hutch, who wasn't actually Starsky or Hutch. Like, he brought nothing to it, and then it seemed like he was going to be like an adversary to, Dirk Benedict, but then had, nope. I think it's when we build up these things. Sometimes we're like, I know what's going to happen. It's like, oh, it didn't happen.
And then the guy wanted his car, the Mercedes, and then he found it in the room. Yeah. But then they just ditched.
Yeah.
It was like, get him his car, but then they just went back to the room.
And being in the room didn't serve anyone other than the audience as a joke.
Yeah.
Like, it didn't serve the movie any purpose. So, yeah, ultimately, I think that's what it came down to. Like, it's a lot different than 1980 January, which was Windows. That movie was coming off serious. Also rape, too. So, thankfully, none of that. Yeah. Right. I mean, it was coming off such a serious tone from the 70s. And this, starting in January 1981, feels like the tone of what the 80s is going to be, regardless if it was done correctly. You're just like,
oh, totally.
Like,
totally.
You watch this and you're like, oh, is this the 80s? Like, there's no mistake. Like, this is what an 80s movie is.
I think, like I was saying, just the synopsis log line, nothing else, just that. I go, 80s.
Yeah. Zany parking it.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm in. Like, I'm in because those types of movies, that's what they did really well in the 80s. This one, it was just like not quite there.
Yeah. I will say though, like, the thing that actually shocked me, I mean, we were correct from the intro, 13 minutes and 40 seconds in boobs, but that was it though. Yeah,
I was like, okay, that starts it, and then
there's going to be like every 5
we're in a hotel, so obviously there will be
No, I mean, I was shocked, and they were on boobs on a second.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, it wasn't even like, oh, and you're just going to do a close-up or something. It was like, that was it. Not racist, not homophobic. I mean, there was, there was a couple of those gas jokes to the Sheik, but it wasn't in a, derogatory way. It was just almost making more commentary on that, it's known that foreign oil. But, like, didn't you think going into it going, all right, there's going to be a couple, like, cringy words thrown around,
I figured there would be some, something.
Yeah.
The Sheik, though, it was, I couldn't figure out if it was like a white guy with some makeup.
I mean, yes, that got a little there were some stereotypes, mainly with the Sheik, but no one else, though. Like, we also didn't get to the point, because that'll probably be closer to late 81 or 82. There's the sloppy fat guy. There's the effeminate guy. Like, that will come a little later. I'm almost surprised there wasn't.
I was like, what is TK? When I saw TK, I was like, what is TK Carter going to be in this movie?
Is he going to play Hollywood?
Yeah. That's what I was thinking. I was like, Zadie. I was like, okay, TK Carter.
Yeah.
They only bring him in for this.
Yeah.
Yeah. But no.
And it very much, too, it's like, what if it was the car wash, but as parking attendants?
That may be how they.
I think that's almost, it was probably like, what if it's Meatballs, it's Cannonball Run, it's the car wash. Okay.
We talk about story, but
yeah,
in some way, you don't necessarily have to have like a big story or like it doesn't have to be that, and it could be like a thin, no real story.
Yeah.
But you have to I think you have to just take out a lot of the convoluted stuff and trying to be this and trying to be love story and trying to, if you want to talk about the pains that they took to do things, how about that bowling ball going and just setting off this shoots and ladders sort of
for no reason
for a long time.
That was like a 2-minute gag.
Yeah.
And then the Michael Winslow gag of being on the car.
Yeah.
Like those were 2 gags that
and they just go on and on and on. And there's no payoff because, okay, the thing is, after the bowling ball gag, the car that they're fixing gets destroyed.
Yeah.
But then, later on, not too long after that, they fix it like it's brand new.
Yeah.
So it's like...
And those are the things that should have happened, like, say the convoluted thing, the bowling ball happens and it spray paints the car. Oh my God, what are we going to do? And I think that's what it was. It was like they had to take away the aspect of them either stripping the cars or repairing the cars. That just added some layer that I didn't understand, even watching going, this is about parking cars.
Yeah.
There should be things that happen that you might be concerned about with the car. It's like, oh my God, we bumped the car against the wall. What are we going to do? As opposed to like, what is going on with these guys? Like,
yeah,
they're stripping cars and it's like, they need their car. Oh, we better put it back. Well, what was your plan?
Yeah.
Like, is there an angle? Like, if there was a guy that showed up going, I'll buy some parts, and they're exchanging money or something, and it's like, and then maybe like, because Frank Gorsman is playing some sort of security guy, but then it's
no
like,
idea what he was.
If he was there, the story was like, we brought on a guy because we've been having a lot of incidents of missing parts. Okay, but that's a whole different movie.
Yeah.
In that thing, that should have just went away. It should have just been. It should have lived up to the tagline: zany events. Of parking attendants.
Yeah, and it could have been just that. I mean, the security and I don't know what he was doing. He to the point of, I don't think it needs to be the point where like he can't drive a golf cart. Like he always runs into something. Like I think there was some gag or something where maybe one of the sheik's bodyguards or something just like fell over a person.
Yeah.
And you're like, always a joke. And it was like, it doesn't have, like, everything doesn't have to be so...
Every time the camera's on a spot, there doesn't have to be a joke in the frame.
Yeah.
There does not have to be a joke in every frame. And joke. Like, some of these were just like...
Yeah.
All right. But like you said, though, I would have probably, had I seen this, which I'm surprised I didn't... see this on the movie channel, I would have probably enjoyed it, and a revisit would have been, yeah, I guess I like those gags because I was 10 or 11.
Right. Because you look at him and you go, okay. You look at the gag with the Winslow in the car and he's being dragged for like 40 minutes.
Yeah.
It's still like, oh, okay, look at the guy doing that. But, after every single frame or a film being a gag or something that's just like, some of the stuff was just like you just roll your eyes, but it's just like,
well, there's that one guy that rolled his eyes.
Oh right.
But it looked like, I don't know if it was because of what they said or it was like literally the extras like it's like, oh, do you know what the movie is you're in?
Yeah. I mean, again, I think it could, like, I wouldn't, if I had to redo it, like, I wouldn't abandon parking attendants, because I think there's something there. The cast, as we said, is good.
I'm shocked we started off that high yes, there are a lot of TV actors, there's nothing wrong. I mean, they were all quality. Like, there was no one that gave a bad performance. I mean, Frank Gorsman was a little over the top, but that was sort of...
Yeah, but he's right.
But he was... You didn't sit there going, oh, he's terrible at doing it.
No.
He was fine at doing it.
Yeah, we know he could do what,
Yeah.
So, it's... Yeah, I just... the whole time you go, I just wish they had a better script to work with.
I wouldn't put this at any top of any list, but I would have went, we started off strong for 81. They just started mediocre. Like, I think Windows set us up for the rest of the year, because that was just like, oh, these movies are all going to be dark brown and have a heavy tone with some rape. This one, I have a feeling, might set up the 80s. 81, at least.
Yeah.
You know, I have a feeling like this feels like the 80s. And once again, we're not picking the big movies. We're picking the ones that were released at the theater that, you know, you end up having to watch on YouTube or something, because there's like, is it on VHS? Yeah, not anymore. What are we going to do? Release this? Who owns it?
Who knows? Yeah.
Well, it was Orion, but Orion's been bought and sold like 20 times. Who knows who owns Underground Aces anymore?
I don't know. You know.
And no one's calling for a Blu-ray of the...
Yeah, no one's going to be remastering this anytime soon.
Here's a 4K of Robert Butler's masterpiece. It's like, oof, okay.
The Butler cut.
The Butler cut. I need 2 hours of this movie. Yeah, I don't think it had anything to do with editing as much as they just wanted every gag possible in this movie. But it served the purpose. But also, too, this also reminds me of these throwaway 80s movies where they didn't focus on stuff. Like, it's like the thinnest story.
The movies that you love that you go, so what's the story? Well, I mean, it's really not. It's kind of just these guys sort of, which is, you know, what you go to see, but it's like you would go to see this cast to perform in a movie. Like, you would do that, but like at least have this is sort of more pared down, you know, story that just pays off in a simple way, and then let them sort of do their thing.
Right.
But, you know, to set up so many things and just like abandon them.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, so the guy who wanted his car, and then the FBI, and then we're just moving on. Okay.
Yeah. They didn't do it a lot, but they did it on things that seemed like they were going to be bigger than they were. Like, there are a few things that just sort of abandoned, going, all right, maybe that's what's going to come back. No? Oh. But they did it just a few times. Like that, and the guy that wanted a prostitute sent to his room, so he went to a random, you know, parking attendant. Never came back. I thought it was going to come back because Dirk Benedict had the key, threw it to TK Carter and his then wife, who we only saw once in the opening scene. It's like, here's the bridal suite. It's like, wait, was that guy in the bridal suite, or did he have a bridal suite key in his pocket? It was, you know. Yeah.
Well, I mean, when the two girls came in the beginning and then TK Carter was like, I think he was kissing her or doing something. And Dirk Benedict talked to her and she's like, well, that's why we're engaged or something.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so they're engaged. I didn't know that she wasn't going to come back to the final reel.
Oh, wait, when did you get married? Like, you haven't taken a day off.
There's been a lot of weddings that just happened with these two that we're supposed to go, okay, I guess they got married.
Their 3 days have been what our pandemic has been like, our work from. It's like, look, it's not going to be that long. March will be over before we know it. That was like their March.
Yeah.
Like their 3 days felt like 2 months.
Totally. Yeah, exactly. It's like, what day is this? And in my mind, I'm like, do they go home? Is there a home? Or is it just...
Oh, no, we just stay at the hotel. Okay, I don't think you understand.
I don't think it works like that.
It was just all about like keeping it in one location, except when they drove the car to find women. That was like the only time we really left the hotel. And then at the end with the horse on the beach. And then them driving to the East Coast. It was also like they just left, and I was like, does Melanie Griffith have an apartment? Does she have to give these are like the things you think about because the movie's so over the top. You're like, does she have to let someone know? Did she give her 2 weeks? No. What's going on?
Did she just go? It's just like, you know, but that's something you can like forget, like in the movies when, you know, they go, hey, why don't you just come along with me?
Yeah.
Well, I have a just hop in the car and leave that all behind and we'll go. And then you go, okay, you know.
You need clothes? Like, you're going to go, wait, what are you guys doing?
You just met him.
Yeah, 3 days ago. And then, you know, your nose tingles and apparently you're in love.
I know. And you were with the other...
Yeah, the thumb guy. He just reminded me of a thumb. That's what
the guy in the weird apartment with in the underground.
Yeah, like he had an apartment.
Garage with the fumes. And
yeah, I was like, I don't know where we are at any. It was almost like, look, guys, here's the location. We can't leave, but I want them to go to the apartment. No, they're in the garage.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I have a feeling this script was 3 scripts, and then they were just like there were 3 writers on it, and and I have a feeling it was like someone wrote it, rewrite, third rewrite, and then it was just like story. That was the third guy.
Yeah,
I got some zany bits.
Yeah, this is probably the director from the studios, like just jam-packed zany into every single scene.
Yeah, God, is that bowling ball stuff? And then there was the fly sound effect, and it was just like, oh my God, what are we doing?
Like, this is gonna be a long 90 minutes.
But it didn't feel it though. Like I was shocked on how fast this movie moved though, for the most part. Like it's definitely setting us up for the 80s.
Yeah.
1981, January, Underground Aces.
Aces, the theme song by the Commodores.
Which was just Aces.
It was just like underground. Yeah.
January 1981,
Yep.
Underground Aces. All right, I mean, I liked it. It was not a good movie.
Yeah, no, it wasn't.
It was enjoyable to watch.
It was enjoyable, and a lot of it had to do with just the cast. They were just
Likable cast.
Likable, and you could be like, I could see them in something that I would, something better, and
Yeah, I mean, you would. I mean, you'd see him in the A-Team.
Yes.
Melanie Griffith's the only one that probably had the star that rise the most out of that.
I think so.
Out of that group, but
well, actually, absolutely.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I'm thinking about it. No, absolutely. And T.K. Carter had a lot of 80s movies. He'll pop up a lot.
He will.
I mean, if I could choose, I'm sure we could pop him in a lot of these movies.
For sure.
All right, until February 1981, which I believe is the Sphinx. Or Finks, or I don't know. Until February 1981.
February, we'll find out.
Thank you for joining us on Post Apocalyptic High West Campfire.
High West.
Don't forget to like, subscribe, follow.
To all the things.
All the things. All the socials. Thank you, John.
Thank you, Rob.
Until next time.
Take it easy.
It's still so good.